many convictions in 13 years or so, countable. And in this particular case, this evidence was gathered 10 years ago when President Yoweri Museveni invited the then prosecutor Louis Moreno Campo into the country to conduct investigations. Even then, he was captured last January, and it's taken about a year, I suppose, because they had to reinvestigate, make sure witnesses are still alive, still willing in that case. But you know the saying that justice delayed is justice denied. So talk to us about what effect this has on the people of Gulu right now in northern Uganda, and just, what we're likely to see with this one, and whether this is something to be expected of an international justice system.
Let me put it this way, that trial systems, whether within the municipal law, that is within the local national law or international law, have a tendency of dragging. So look at any trial, a murder trial, it tends to take a bit of time because of the level of investigations, the witnesses that have to be arraigned, the calendar of the courts and so on. It gets even worse when you look at it from an international arena, where you have to procure cooperation with the respective countries, and where you have to go into areas where there's already active war, like in Gulu and so on. So it generally takes a little bit of time. That said, what you can also say is that because of passage of time, the quality of the evidence also gets a little lower, and the possibilities of prosecution also then conviction tend to also be a little lower. Time, remember it was Louis Moreno Campo with his style. Now it's Fatou Bensouda with her style. So but with the time, you find that management changes, the players change, and in the process, justice is lost somewhere. The persons who are being charged don't get justice because of the delay, but the victims themselves also don't feel they get justice because that delay and that drawn out process just wears them out.
Okay. And now we take a look at, this case is being held at The Hague. The crimes were committed in northern Uganda. There's a sense in which perhaps the people in Gulu are far removed from the scene of where justice will be sought. And yes, the ICC has put up screens in northern Uganda and they can follow the proceedings. But some say that perhaps having the case being heard at a place so far removed from the scenes of crime, that the people in Gulu, many people, to be fair, had never even known of a place called The Hague within the Netherlands. And now they hear of this case of, things that happened to them in Gulu, even in the Kenyan cases, and it's now happening in a very far off place. Is there any do you think, one, it affects justice being seen to be done for the victims? That's one. And two, is there a way that the jurisdiction can be brought a little closer home?
I think there's always an argument that you can try and bring some of this. Remember, even for the Kenyan cases, there was a discussion as to whether it could be done in Arusha or done within the continent. There is always a case for bringing it closer so that those who are victims and those who are interested can be able to watch it at a close level and monitor it. But that said, the practical elements of it are difficult. For example, right now, even if you tried to bring in screens in Gulu, how long do you keep people who have to go about their businesses glued to a screen? Obviously, what would have been good is the case comes up, it is heard pretty fast, it's concluded one way or the other, and people forget it and go away. But since 2005, since the surrender in 2015 January, and now in January 2016, that's when you're hearing of trial, it tends to wear out, and perhaps the quality of what would amount to, justice goes down, because those who are interested, the victims, tend to forget and move on.
And they move on with their lives, because you go in and you take a look at that. Is it possible for the trial chamber to be located elsewhere other than The Hague?
It is possible. I think there is a provision that you can actually, ICC can actually set up base anywhere, whether in the case of Sierra Leone or, even the case of the Kenyan case, it could have come. It's possible. It's just a question of logistics. It's a question of the practicality and so on. But also, when you look at it, we must accept that that should be done with a lot of care, with a lot of good planning, because it means a lot. It means logistics, it means money and so on.
Right.
But more importantly, it needs cooperation.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to locate ICC in Uganda and Museveni is saying, no, I don't want it, or if he's not cooperating and you're locating it there, chances are that you'll take longer to start it off.
Okay. As we conclude, Martin, talk to us about what this means for East Africa in general, for the reputation of the ICC, with the Kenyan cases. Some say, the politicians in Kenya managed to put a little dink, in the reputation of the ICC and how they're conducting their operations, and bearing in mind that Fatou Bensouda says she has her eye on what's going on in Burundi, which is an active situation in East Africa right now. What sort of message does this send? We have Bosco and Taganda also. Just paint for us that picture on a sort of regional perspective.
I think the issue I started with of double speak is critical, and Kenyan case is one of the best ways of checking the double speak. At one point, we were all clear that we would rather The Hague because it was far, and because it was international, and because it was likely to be objective. As soon as we said that and that happened, we turned it around and said, no, these guys are imperialists, these guys are imposing themselves
But there was also a sense, Martin, they say in the Kenyan cases that we thought it would never happen, and it would take 10, 15, 20 years for the cases to be tried. So we're not quite sincere when we said go to The Hague.
Precisely. We didn't believe it would happen. But then the nature of these crimes are such that even if it takes 20 years, even if it takes 30 years, it will be prosecuted somewhat. I mean, the Yugoslavia case, the World War II cases, and so on. That will be something that we need to. The ICTR in Uganda, and Rwanda, and so on. That we should be clear about. That said, let's look at Africa, or East Africa generally. I think that there's a clear message that is going out there in Burundi, in Kenya, in Uganda, that if you are in authority and in command, your activities against civilians should be moderated and tempered by the law. So you're not going to do things that are amounting to international crimes and get away with it, however long it takes. So Burundi would be better be warned. Anybody, even in Kenya, who is thinking, and I know we are coming to an election, that you can just rise up animosities and fun ethnicity, you should be warned that even if nothing happens to you in this country, the international community will be able to enforce some kind of justice at some point. So basically what we should be doing is let's manage ourselves better. Let's govern ourselves better. Let us play by the rule of law. Let us be people who are accountable to ourselves, because nobody elects leaders so that they can exterminate their citizens.
Their own population.
We elect them so that they can be able to take care of us. They can be able to put us together and ensure our safety.
All right, thanks very much. Martin Olo, he's a lawyer here in Nairobi, Kenya, giving us some perspective and what it means for leadership in East Africa. Remember, a lot of elections going on. Rwanda's coming, so is Kenya, also the DRC as well. So where do we go with the Dominic Ongwen case? Like we said, we'll be following those events keenly. Thanks very much. Martin Olo, lawyer here in Nairobi, Kenya. We're taking a short break right now on Bottom Line East Africa, but we have more news coming up for you. Take a look at that. Still to come, African literature, New Age village romance stories captured in ink. International justice tend to move very slowly.
Yeah.
The ICC itself, has had